Hello and welcome to Realizing Leadership in Conversation. I'm your host, Lori Wilhelm. We're speaking with Chester Elton, who co-authored with Adrian Gostick several best-selling business books, including The Carrot Principle, which has been a regular New York Times and Wall Street Journal bestseller, 24 Karat Manager, which Larry King called a must-read for modern-day managers, and The Orange Revolution, which was the #1 selling business book in the United States, according to the Wall Street Journal. Their latest book, All In, looks at how the best managers create a culture of belief and drive big results. Chester and Adrian are founders of The Culture Works, which provides consulting and training in recognition, teamwork, and culture. He also advises the leadership teams of numerous Fortune 500 firms. Welcome, Chester, to Realizing Leadership in Conversation. Thank you for your time joining us today.
No, my pleasure.
Now, we're going to be chatting about your and Adrian Gostick's new book, All In, How the Best Managers Create a Culture of Belief and Driving Big Results. Now, just so we're all starting with a shared understanding, can you define what culture is?
Well, it is interesting you asked that question because I think culture is an emotional thing. I liken it then to like buying a house. You have certain criteria for your house, right? You tell the realtor, good school, safe neighborhood, all that good stuff. So many rooms, so many bathrooms. And then they take you to like 40 houses.
Yep.
And you have that experience where you've got the experience, I can tell. And you walk in and you go, hey, this is the house. There's that emotional connection. And it may not be the exact color you wanted or the exact layout, but you have this emotional connection. And I think in business, culture is like that as well. You'll move departments or you'll change jobs and you'll even stay with the same company but move to a different city. And you find a different culture. And it's a feeling, do you fit or don't you fit? Do you trust the people you work with or don't you? And I think it's really an interesting exercise that we all go through at certain points in our careers as we make changes. Is this the right place for us? And sometimes we have that feeling like the new house. We walk in and go, yep, this is it. And other times we go, this absolutely isn't it.
Yeah.
And so that's why I think it's such an interesting study, is that all the criteria can be right, but if the culture isn't right, it doesn't matter.
So everything's hinging on that cultural piece.
You bet.
Now, when you say all in, which is the title of your book, what does that mean, all in?
We started our work, Adrian and I, writing a lot about reward and recognition, how you use that to engage your employees and, accelerate your business results. And then we went into teamwork. The culture and the all in was a natural progression for us, is what creates these high-performance cultures. And, clients would say, look, it's important that we reward and recognize that we have teamwork. But again, if the culture isn't right, it doesn't matter. So what we did is we said, well, let's take a look at the highest performing cultures we can find in companies and see what the common denominators are. Can we create a model around that? And the slogan all in is, in these high performance cultures, people really did love their jobs. They didn't just have the right CV, right, and the right education, but they had that emotional connection of not just the what and how of work, but the why. They were passionate about their work. They were literally all in. They made the big bet. They put all their chips in the middle of the table, and they were willing to do those extra things that make high-performance cultures high-performing and just the average cultures okay. Does that make sense?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. Now, your book has a lot of information. And of course, we take us a day and a half to go through everything that's in your book. But what I would really appreciate, if we could go over, you have the 3 E's, the 3 factors that when combined, create this culture of belief. And that's what accelerates the achievement of the goals. Could you please describe these 3 factors?
Oh, excellent place to start. In fact, we created our roadmap, or you can call it the wheel. And in the center, where the spokes would be, are the 3 E's. And we've done a lot of work around engagement. The reward and recognition drove engagement. The teamwork drove engagement. And, that was quite the hot word, in business. We got to get people engaged. We really felt that was the holy grail. Well, one of the real ahas we had as we looked at over 300,000 surveys from these top performing cultures that was graciously, opened up to us by the Towers Watson Group, is that engagement alone isn't enough. that along with engagement, you need to enable your employees to give them the tools to do their jobs and then energize them around the why of work. And once you added those two components, then, productivity really did skyrocket. In fact, if you don't have the other two E's, you leave a lot of productivity on the table. And so from the research, big aha. It's great to be engaged. It's better if you have the tools to do your job, you're enabled, and you're energized around the purpose of your organization.
Mm-hmm. And so now we've kind of heard, as you said, engaged was, commonly talked about. Enabled, sure. I think people are starting to pick up. But what I really found interesting was the third E, the energized. The first two seem to be a bit more tangibly executed, perhaps, but energized is all around really emotion and attachment and the sense of belonging.
You bet. The enable, before we jump past that, it is, you can set that up, right? I've got laptops that work. I've got a car that runs, those kinds of things. But the other part about enable that I think is really important is, do I understand what the rules and regulations are and what I can do to really satisfy the customer? For example, I love to tell the story of Apple Computer, the Apple Store. I don't know if you've ever been in an Apple store.
Oh, yes.
But they're wonderful places.
Great.
They just are. It's the new toy store, right? It's Apple-palooza. And my co-author, Adrian, we both have 17-year-old sons, and his son's name's Tony. They went into an Apple store, and he had his iPod had stopped working. So, they get the guy, and can I help you? And he goes, sure, can you do that Genius Bar thing and fix this iPod? And he says, well, let me give it a shot. As he's testing the iPod and playing with the wheel, he actually drops it.
Oh, no.
And he says, oh, I'm so sorry. He says, look, I'll get you a new one. And he goes to the back and comes up with a new iPod and hands it to Tony and says, here you go, Tony. Enjoy your new iPod. And, Adrian says, well, okay, so how do I pay for that? He goes, no. I dropped it, my bad. Policy, if I drop it, you get a new one. He goes, well, it wasn't working when you were playing with it. It wasn't working all the way to the floor. You know what I mean? I'm happy to pay for it. He goes, no. The rules are rules. And what I love about that story is he did it immediately. He didn't ask for proof of purchase. He didn't ask for, do you have eye care? Can you fill out all these forms and mail them in, and we'll send you a discount coupon for your next purchase? Mm-hmm. He just went to the back, got it, and gave it to him. That's an incredibly enabled employee. Yeah. He knows what the framework is. And I'm sure there was accountability where he had to tell the manager, hey, dropped an iPod. You'll notice there's one missing from inventory. And hopefully the manager said, hey, you did the right thing. Now, don't make it a habit, right? Mm. I don't want to see a whole line of people waiting to see you every day, passing them, their laptops. No, give it to him. He'll drop it. You'll get a new one. It's awesome, right? Mm-hmm. So I love that bit about enabled. It's not just having, the hardware that works. It's understanding, intellectually what it is that can be done, and I do it, and I'm rewarded and praised and recognized for it. So I think that enabling piece, sometimes we give it a little short shrift, and they say, okay, great, your laptop works, you got a good phone, go, and we're enabled. But your point around Energize, I think, is a very good one. When you can connect the what and how to the why, there's a lot of productivity there because people enjoy what they do, they're enabled to do it, but they get this emotional satisfaction out of whatever it is they're doing, whether they're building buildings or in call centers or in-store satisfying customers.
So how can the average manager, a manager who wants to eventually be on the executive floor, but we all start somewhere, how does a manager in that capacity energize his team?
Well, different people are energized in different ways. So it's important to get to know your team, right? But I think the thing is you need to constantly be talking about your vision, mission, and your values. For example, I love, we in the book, we talked about this American Express call center down in Fort Lauderdale, Florida, and we just recently visited the one in Phoenix, Arizona as well. Now, American Express, it's a charge card, but they don't have clients or customers. They have card members. So it's a membership. Now, they talk a lot about that. What can we do more for our members? Now, this call center down in Florida in particular was fascinating to me because, if you've ever been to a call center, this is not a place where when the phone rings, you get good news.
Right.
People don't call up and say, hey, used your card last night at a restaurant. It was awesome. Right?
Yeah.
Good job. Keep it up. In fact, if you want to freak out your credit card company, call their number.
They're just waiting for the rest to come.
It never happens. But they take it on as a challenge that, look, we're problem solvers, and nobody solves problems, and nobody takes care of their members better than us. So in most call centers where you've easily got double-digit turnover, sometimes triple-digit, right? Here's a call center that has 9% turnover and an average tenure of around 15 years.
Wow.
Highly engaged. I mean, you go there, these are happy people. And you wonder why. Well, it comes right down from the leadership. Doria Camaraza runs the place. She makes sure that she takes care of her people first, that they understand how important it is to the business, that the card members have their problems solved. They created a wonderful storytelling culture where they tell the story of the card member stranded in Rome 3 days before his son's wedding, lost his passport. Can you help me? If that had been me on that call, I would have said, nope. But they tell the story about, we got a hold of the embassy, we set it all up, we got him his passport, and he was there for the wedding. Those kinds of stories energize certain people. And again, not everybody. So as you're hiring people, say, look, do you like to solve problems? Do you like to take care of people? Do you like to make sure that things are done right? Well, if you're that kind of person, you're going to love working here. And when you display those kinds of behaviors, we're gonna celebrate them. We're gonna tell your story. They do a thing once a month called Tribute, where they bring like 3,000 people work at this call center. They bring as many of them together as they can spare off the phones, and they've got a big courtyard. And Doria comes out to rock and roll music, dancing with her executives, and they tell great stories, and they pass out awards, and they have a minute to win it, where they compete against each other, different departments. It's call center palooza.
Wow.
And
nice.
People stay, they feel valued, there's that connection, and it's remarkable. Now, if you can create that kind of energy at a call center, you can do it anywhere.
You're right.
And what they do is they talk about their vision, their value, how they serve people, how it's so important what they do, and boy, they hire to it, they get the right people there. And, I've been an American Express cardholder since 1983. I love calling the call center. They always go above and beyond my expectations. And then I always say at the end, by the way, say hi to Doria for me.
Oh, no way.
So it's extraordinary. Another great example of, the energy and the why. Everybody's favorite case study is Zappos. If you ask Zappos or say, what do they do and how they do it? Well, they sell shoes online and they ship them from warehouses. But if you ask a Zappos employee what it is they ship, they'll tell you they ship happiness in every little box. Well, see, I think you approach your job differently when you're shipping happiness as opposed to shipping shoes.
Yeah.
And to your point, how do you get there? That's what you talk about. That's what you recognize and reward, and those are the stories you tell. And that, again, creates this culture of service that attracts service-minded people and rejects those that aren't. And that's how you build a culture, right? Storytelling over time, focusing on the vision values, focusing on the purpose, not just the what and the how, but if you get to the why. I was just with the Vanguard investment company down in Pennsylvania. They talk about making people's dreams come true through their investments. Well, it's a lot different approach from, look, I've got to beat the market, or I've got to sign up a bunch of people to, what can I do to make sure that this family, when it comes time to retire, that their dreams can come true. I mean, the companies that do that are always high performance. And if you look at the performance of, the American Express call center, 6 years in a row, J.D. Power and Association, winners. Zappos, $0 to $1 billion in 9 years. And Vanguard, which is one of the gold standards of investment. You understand that culture drives all those things, getting the right people, but with the right purpose behind it. It's kind of cool, isn't it?
It's totally cool. And, to attach to an emotional concept, that will motivate anyone, because emotions where everything comes down.
Think about it in your personal life, Where do you have your biggest emotional connection? Well, it's your family, it's your spouse, it's your partner, it's your kids. think of what you would do for them. Do you have an emotional connection there? Well, sure you do.
Yeah.
Well, if you can translate that into work and vice versa, take that passion from work, don't just leave it all at work, bring it home. I mean, everything gets better all the way around.
That's right.
It's really a fascinating study.
Absolutely. And your book is terrific. And I like how you've got all the stories in there. You've got some how-to points. You've got the summary. And then at the second half of the book are the 7 steps. And it's one I've really enjoyed reading it. It was so well written. It was such a pleasure to read and so much to learn that, like I said, we need a day and a half just to talk about it now. But I know that time is precious, and I do want to thank you for spending some time with us today at Realizing Leadership. I truly appreciate it. And I also recommend for the listeners to actually read your other books, the 24-Karat Manager, the Orange Revolution. They're all super, super books. So thank you very much, Chester.
No, listen, always a pleasure. You know, leadership is one of those things where when the leader changes, the culture changes. Mm-hmm. And it's really interesting as companies look to create the leaders of tomorrow, figuring out how to really engage, enable, and energize your people. It is so key. And again, you know, as we've talked about, don't leave it at work. I find that, you know, I experiment on my kids all the time, all these different principles. And, you know, when you really do care for people, you appreciate them, you recognize them, you tell their stories, you know, everything really does get better. So it's been delightful spending time with you. You know, don't hesitate to call again.
Well, thank you again, Chester. It's been a pleasure.
Take care. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.